Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the X-Force Global channel. Thank you very much for joining. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to try and speak a little bit slower this time because I know there are people who cannot speak English. Funny thing is, it's also not my first language. Yay! So today, we're going to dive into the latest Bitcoin developments and explore how we can revise the wave counts based on our prior analysis. It's my duty to share all of the bullish and bearish interpretations and provide the probabilities as time progresses, so I will do my best. Now, starting off with our first scenario, this premise still works on the idea or the assumption that our broader wave 3 of the intermediate degree on the larger macro timeframes has concluded, and now we're experiencing some kind of 1-2 pullback phase. Thus, we're adhering to this particular bullish narrative for the time being, even if it feels somewhat forced because of our wave 1 has troubles on what the placement is right now at the time of recording. So starting off with the bullish structure, we can finally rule out the idea of a flat structure of a 1-2 that we originally had. And with that dismissal of the flat scenario, we find ourselves more compelled to consider a count resembling a potential deeper wave 2 if we're going to force another diagonal going into that wave 1. Now, wave 1 as a diagonal, we would have a 3-wave forced here, 3, and then another 3 for 4, 5, as such, and 4 would not even go into the territory of wave 1. Again, the new guidelines state that wave 4 does not have to enter the territory of wave 1 as long as it resembles some kind of diagonal look on the macro. Now, since it does look like a diagonal in hindsight on the larger time frames, I'm going to say that this can be a forced wave 1, and then we're working for a deeper wave 2 because we have not broken the lows, and still this is the only bullish narrative that we can work with now. So again, with the dismissal of our flat scenario, we find ourselves a little bit more compelled to consider a count resembling a potential deeper wave 2. But again, even this interpretation is losing momentum quite significantly as we have already surpassed the 0.786 and the 886 levels of the Fibonacci retracement of this 1-2. And whatever it may be, the situation remains as it is, given that we haven't completely breached the lows miraculously at the time of recording again. So additionally, for bullish investors, if they are seeking a more substantial wave 2 pullback, we must now consider, again, the forced diagonal into a wave 1, which is again displaying indications of forced counts that I do not like to do. But again, we have already tried to force a wave 2 flat, which was at peak validity when we had this possible C waving ending here and this breakout happening. We thought this was going to be a wave 1, but that didn't even happen. Marcus decided otherwise for that specific scenario, and we just completely dumped. Now, the challenge we face now stems from yesterday's upward surge at this level here on the shorter time frames, right? So let's pull it up. Thankfully, I was asleep when this initially appeared to be an impulse transformed into a 3-wave move. Now, I know it's looking like it could be an impulse, but this is one of those where I'm not going to accept it as an impulse because we had this possibility of going into wave 1, 2, and this move here is what ruined the look because this was a clear 5-wave impulse. This could have been a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete that impulse, but we did not get that. We just got a complete rejection. So I'm going to be labeling this as an ABC. So this move here has to be something of a different mode of pattern, and that wave B is the only way I can be labeling it at the current time of recording. There are different ways. There are different variations on how we can label this move down. But for now, I'm labeling this as an ABC because of this being an impulse as well. So these ABCs are not uncommon, but again, we're working with probabilities, and based on those probabilities, due to the idea of having a forced wave 1 and this wave 2 being so deep, this ABC is the only way I can fit it in currently with this current data that we have. Now, there are some other variations we can kind of mitigate, but the overall end result is the same because we could have said that this, instead of being that C wave of the flat, we can alternatively say that this is the beginning of a wave A, 3-way move into C of the B, and then this being the impulsive move to the downside, surpassing even the 90%. Again, and not invalidated because we have seen very deep wave 2s We just don't like the idea of having this wave 2, and we have to start considering the alternative ideas. So, um, I guess we could say that this was a WXY. We had a zigzag into wave W, X, and then an ABC flat into that wave as well. So I think this actually has the best look for now, but it doesn't really matter. We're still so deep. So until these levels really do show some kind of momentum to the upside, we're going to have to kind of be on our toes if you're a bull. Now, going into the second scenario, which is my preferred scenario, is that we're working in a new transitional wave, okay? So rather than concluding that a wave 3-4 has concluded for this flat, we could interpret this flat as the initial indication of a new beginning as a wave W, okay? Due to this move here, we can now have more data to work with, thinking that this could be, the beginning of a different transitional wave, meaning that this transition positions us within a new temporary phase or a transitory phase marked by this wave X in green, suggesting the potential for a temporary upward movement for this internal C wave, possibly more likely as a flat after we finish our B wave. Now, this potential move to the upside as a temporary move to actually possibly retest the 70K levels, this should serve as a wake-up call for the bulls, holding their long positions within the middle range or possibly even here. One common mistake among traders is holding onto positions once they return back to break even. So if this idea or narrative that we're building is saying that we're in a transitional wave, it would be wise to take profits, not financial advice, because it could lead us into something different. But for the time being, if this is a transitional X wave, which I am expecting this to play out, if it does, this is a great level to get out, because I think that we are going to be in a new transitional wave of this X wave. So this would be the three-wave move up for wave A, the beginning of our flat. We would have some kind of ABC. This impulsive move down could also lead us all the way down into the 1382 or the 1236 zone, which is a very common zone for expanded pocket zones. It could go from anywhere from the 101 all the way to the 138% of this wave A. Then we can say that we're working for some kind of expanded or even a possible running variation, and then we're looking for a possible Y wave. We want this to be an expanded flat because we do want to ideally reach that 70% zone, and then once we're out of that zone, we come back down for another zigzag to create this overall equilibrium look. Now, there's another variation in mind that we can start talking about, which is after we finish this X wave, since this was a flat, we can also say that this is a triangle, thinking that if this is going to be finishing up in these regions, we can create the same level of equilibrium within this possible triangle as a wave Y. But since wave Y as a triangle is very rare, I haven't seen these types of corrections in Bitcoin personally. And if they did, they're completely a different pattern of some sort, transitioning into a different correction. I don't like to even talk about this idea, so this is deemed as not possible for me. I just don't think so. It's very low probability, so we don't even have to discuss it. Now, the next idea is that we're working in a possible W that has finished as a flat, where a wave 3 origin starts from here. So if we're having wave 3 start from here, we can label this move down as a three-wave move into wave A, a WXY into wave B, and then we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 as a triangle, and then 5 for C. This would give us a larger ABC as a running variation or a flat variation for wave W. We would then work for a WXY for wave X, and we're now working for wave Y as a zigzag. So if we're going to label this move originally as a C wave, we can now label this as an actionary wave A. This transitory phase for this wave B is what we originally expected as a three-wave move. That was no problem. We like this B wave. And now we're looking for this impulsive move to the downside. Now, there are a few ways we can look at this, both showing potential problems. We have 5 waves move into a wave 1. And then, like we said, we had a very short but very sharp wave 2 that went into the 382. So I guess this is an okay wave 2, but it's just so short in time that I don't want to be even labeling this as a wave 2. So there's a lot of internal conflicts that's happening here, right? So if this is the case, we're expecting wave 3, 4, and 5. But due to this long extension, this actionary wave could be a wave 1. This is now deemed as a possibility for leading us into much deeper levels because we need to work with this very extended wave 1 possibility. So this is going to be deeming as not even a possible, I don't think this is going to be even a wave count of a WXY at this point, right? We don't want to be even talking about it. We're probably going to be working in a different impulsive move to the downside as a 1-2, which I'll be discussing in just a moment. Now, I guess alternatively, we could say that this is a 1 and then say that this was a 2. And then that would be working with a 3, 4, and then 5, which would finish off that C wave, which would still give us an overall equilibrium look to this count. So that's one way. Now, the fourth scenario is that we're working in a possible diagonal variation of some sort. The reason why is because we have a lot of series of 3s that fit into the idea that this is now being completed as an overall diagonal variation of a large caliber. It's too large, my idea, so this is looking less likely. It's just an alternative for me. But I do like the fact that it can be leading us into a leading diagonal or an ending diagonal. Why? Because this could be labeled as a 3, this could be an A, this could be a B, and this could be the ending diagonal variation, where we have an A, B, C, and that'll label us as a wave 4, and then we're out of here. Or, if this was a 3, or sorry, if this was the top of something, possibly as a C of a Y, then we would say that this could be leading us into a leading diagonal idea, and then this would be the corrective phase. We would have a 1 or a 2 being made, or possibly A. We'll have to see what kind of corrective move it is. But this could be also helping that larger mega bearish scenario that is leading up into possibly what could be this flat scenario on the macro time frames. If we look at this, we have a wave 1 possibly ending here, WXYX set into a wave A, W, X, and Y could be an expanded flat now. We are also now starting to believe that this is a possible scenario. Just like I said, and alternatively, in saying that this was an AB, this could be the beginning of a 1-2. And now that same idea of a 1-2 being built, we can create that larger impulsive structure going into that larger actionary wave of a wave 1 of the primary degree. So if we zoom out again, that right here is going to be a very important zone. I would expect a bounce at that region, corrective move, and this is the zone where we're going to be monitoring very heavily on whether the continuation is going to be happening or not, and then we break down. Now, there are a few kind of other momentum indicators that we have to be taken into consideration, like the RSI, but again, basic channeling ideas is going to be another important thing. Where we originally had our wave 1 as a reference point here for the flat and the wave 2, and this was originally our wave 3 idea. This channel, our original channel, is going to be very important. I think that we should be saved, or ideally we want to be saved at this region if we're a bull. So we definitely don't want to see this region breaking. But since we can adjust the channel based on the channeling technique, this wave 1-2, now also, just like we explained for Solana's analysis, we have this larger channel to save us. So we don't have to be mega bearish at this time. And I think that's why a lot of people are still trying to be extremely a perma bear at this time, but there's just no reason to do so. We're just looking for what kind of opportunities lie in these regions first, and then secondly, these regions right here is going to be very important because we want to be ideally saved by this channel here, okay? So I think that this level here is going to be a critical level, especially we have small support here. So if that is also being met with this bottom channeling idea, then we can work with that parallel channel idea as well. So that's about it. And then there's another moving average that we want to be looking at on the daily time frame, which is the 100 moving average. That has been a temporary or strong support in times of trending markets. For example, this is what sparked the bull market actually, and we're now coming down to retest it for a second time. That could also be another piece of evidence that leads us to the upside, maybe possibly as a diagonal ideal alternative. And then we also had another great bounce from our first breakout of that bear market and then back in there. And that 100 moving average, aside from the 200 moving average on the daily, has acted as strong resistance as well. So these are definitely levels to look for, and this first level of support is going to be critical, and I would expect at least some kind of reaction move, maybe creating that WXY I was talking about, that WX, and then that Y as a zigzag. Then we'll see a little bit of more sideways movement, and this coming as a convergence, and that 200 moving average is going to be extremely critical for us to bounce out of here as well, to give us a proper look for a possible 1-2 or a 3-4 pullback. Now, hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to have more daily updates, and if you're not following me on social media, at X, formerly known as Twitter, please do follow me at X-Force Global. If you are interested in getting more updates even on the daily, please do not hesitate to contact me on Telegram. The link is in the description below if you would like to join the X-Force Global Discord membership. We have a little over 1,000 members. We've been operating since 2018. So please do feel free to contact me on getting more information on that. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next analysis. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.